All right, welcome to another broadcast of Unleash Independence. We have a really special guest today, someone his research has really changed my life. And we have Cameron here, obviously, who's been on the show a lot of times. So, Cameron, thank you.
Absolutely.
And we also have Dr. Robert Young. To give you a little background before we bring him on, is he's one of the top research scientists over the last few decades, and he studies the cellular level, the blood, or pretty much our blood, and how it affects our cells and what we eat and how it affects our blood. And it's really something that really has changed my life, helped out my family in multiple ways, and I just love this stuff. So, Dr. Young, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks, Brock. It's great to meet you and to be part of your show today.
Awesome, thank you. So, what I guess Dr. Young has a website. It's called pH Miracle Living, and I heard about it. I was actually like every single day after work, I was falling asleep, and I get plenty of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, but I could not stay awake. So I was thinking about how can I naturally get energy, and I came across Dr. Young's research, and it really changed my life. I mean, that's all I wanted was just energy. Didn't have any major health problems, and it really has changed my life. So, what is the pH Miracle Living lifestyle?
Well, the pH Miracle Living is a new way of living, eating, and thinking. It incorporates a liberal amount of plants, particularly from vegetables, green vegetables, and green fruit, but also liberal amounts of good, healthy fats too as well. It doesn't necessarily sustain from animal protein, but this is a personal choice that I've made. I don't eat any beef, chicken, pork, or fish, but in choosing proteins, I choose to get my protein sources from plant sources rather than animal sources. But if I was to eat, let's say, animal protein, I'd probably choose deep-sea cold water fish because they're high in good, healthy omega oils. And my wife occasionally will have fish, and that's her election. And definitely the oils are beneficial to her, and they have a calming effect. They have a very good effect on building the membranes, the lipid membranes of the stem cells and erythroblasts that make up our erythrocytes or red blood cells. And so eating good, healthy fat from plant sources is something that we do on a daily basis. But it is a vegan, plant-based diet. For me, it's 100% raw. Very seldom will I eat any cooked food. But here again, I had to change the description or the connotation of what this diet was, because people would say, well, how would you describe it? And rather, is it a vegan diet? Is it a vegetarian diet? Is it a paleo diet? What type of diet is it? And we call this diet an alkalarian diet. And the reason we call it an alkalarian diet, in fact, I don't even like the word diet. I like live it better than diet. Because it is a lifestyle. The way that we choose to eat, and of course I've chosen this alkalarian approach, is focused on those foods that are going to transform or liquefy and help to build primary stem cells and blood cells, with the etiology that the most important cell in the human body is the blood. And so I've been studying foods over the last 30 years to determine what foods are paramount and what foods will actually affect the production of the blood, so quantity, as well as the quality of the blood, because I've been looking at that for many, many years. And I've determined that the most healthful foods that we can eat to build quality and quantity are all the green fruit and vegetables with the good, healthy poly and mono and saturated oils that we get from plant sources.
Okay.
That was a long answer. But
No, great. Something I want to know is how did you come into, I guess, what led you to this research? What made you come to this, I guess, 20, 30 years ago when you...
Well, I studied microbiology. My friend there at the university, we both studied biology together while we're focused on our athletics, which was in tennis. And so we both played for the University of Utah. And we were concerned to manage our fitness, and we weren't necessarily so concerned about our health, but at that particular time, but fitness seemed to be paramount, and so we were quite active, in our trainings, and it was really interesting because we started taking vitamin and mineral supplements back in the 60s. I mean, that was crazy. People are probably going, let's see, how old is this guy? This is, So, so our coach started giving us vitamin and mineral supplements, and I thought, oh wow, okay, what are we? Is this Star Trek or what? We're in the 21st century here, but I noticed a difference when I was taking concentration. And one of the of vitamins and minerals. Another thing I noticed is that we would also replace our electrolytes. Back then, we didn't have Gatorade. We didn't have Powerade. We didn't have energy drinks, which was actually to our benefit. But we did have salt pills. And these little yellow salt pills, we'd be out on the court, baking in the sun, playing tournament tennis, collegiate tennis. Eventually went to professional tennis, and we were popping sodium pills to keep our bodies alkaline. And I understood the biochemistry of the body, but I really didn't connect into the pH until later. But I realized that managing my electrolytes was important, and all the electrolytes, what are they? Sodium, magnesium, potassium, and calcium were essential for keeping my energies up. But I really hadn't concluded why, other than I knew they were necessary, and I better take these salt pills and these vitamins and minerals to help support my basic needs for life force energy and the transport of that energy, which is done through all of these ions, through our body fluids. So that's kind of how it started. And being interested in microbiology and biology, and studying anatomy, physiology, learning how things work. And rather than going the medical school route, I went professional athletics. And a lot of that was geared towards, I got married, we're going to start a family, and I thought, okay, I can provide for my family through sport, and that's how I made my living up until I was 29, and then I retired from professional sports. And we're going, okay, now what do I do? I'm retired, and so that's when I started going back to my education, and from there began the process of looking at health and fitness and health rather than just fitness. And from there, just each year I started learning more about the things that I was interested in. At that time, when I was doing one of my thesis doctorates, was studying the impact of what we eat, what we drink on the integrity of the human blood. That's where I say this very simplistic, came up with the idea that there's only two blood types, healthy and unhealthy. And so one of the things that I was really noticing was that, everybody, that I was looking at, as it pertains to their diet, really were not making the kind of blood that some of the top athletes or some of those that were on a plant-based diet. They seemed to have better strength at the cellular level. But here again, we were young, and so we had an exuberant amount of energy. So there was quite a differential between those who were on a plant-based diet, which showed more of what would be termed healthy blood, versus those who are on the standard American diet or an animal protein-based diet that I grew up with, most of us grew up with, just didn't have, healthy blood. And so as I did this elimination, add this, take this out, asking questions, and asking good questions. What are you eating? What are you drinking? Are you exercising? How much water do you drink? How often do you exercise? How long do you? What type of exercise? What do you eat for breakfast? I mean, that's quite revealing. And from that, I started making, restrictions on certain foods, and some additions to other foods. And over a period of 20 years of doing this and working with the same people, over a period of 20 years, it was evident that food, what we eat and what we drink, had a significant impact on the quality of the blood. And the quality of the blood, then I realized that the quality of the blood had a serious impact on the quality of one's health. And so there was a correlation between blood and body cells that make up our organs and tissues and glands, and then what we are eating. And then the discovery, or the revelation came, and that was that those who had healthy blood seemed to have better elimination. Their alimentary canal, their system seemed to be functioning better. And those who did not have healthy blood seemed to be more constipated, seemed to have variations within their eliminations, maybe more watery to more solid, and sometimes maybe not eliminating a day. And I noticed this particularly with type 1 diabetics. And as I continue to work with type 1 diabetics and look at their blood and then ask them questions like, what are you eating, what are you drinking, and then how many times do you eliminate the bowel, I learned that 99.9% of the time, type 1 diabetic children were not eliminating their bowels on a regular basis. They were constipated. And when we relieved the constipation, the diabetes was a miracle, vanished. Call them pH miracles. And so I tied the health of the bowel or the core to the health of the blood, and then realized that even though what I was taught at the university, the blood is built in the marrow of the bones, and that was from research that was done in the 50s, that in reality that's a secondary tertiary place, that the primary site of blood production, which is now evident by other researchers who have made the same discovery, that blood or stem cells primarily are made in the core blood, is what we call it, in the crypts of the small intestine. So this is where these stem cells and primary cells are primarily made. And when we have congestion that's caused by a high fiber diet or a diet that's high in foods that do not liquefy, which would be beef, chicken, pork, sometimes fish. Oily fish is a lot better. It did not seem to contribute to the health of the core or the gut. And if that person even, let's say, was on antibiotics for a period of time, things even got worse. There was actual damage then to the intestinal villi, which are appendages from the small intestine, which I affectionately refer to as the root system of the body. Kind of like a plant has a root system, we have a root system. So the integrity of that particular environment then became my focus in research. And cleansing became very, very significant, particularly when dealing with serious chronic disease or disease. That became the focal point in conjunction with shifting the diet to a more plant-based alkaline diet, green diet, for building blood based on the theory that blood then becomes, healthy blood then becomes the healthy thyroid, it becomes the healthy brain, it becomes the healthy bones, it becomes the healthy liver. So if we have enough time to restore the health to the core and begin to build blood, the body will then, at a rate of about 10 to 12 million body cells per second, will begin to repair and renew itself and regenerate new healthy glands, tissues, and organs. But here again, there's three factors that have to be present in order for one to achieve a restoration of health. And that is, do we have enough time? The second one is, what is the level of acidity that the body is holding on to, or toxins the body is holding on to? And the last thing is the thinking. What is the person's emotional and mental state? So I call these the three T's. Do we have enough time? What is the level of toxicity? And what is the thinking? Thinking, toxins, and time are the three key elements that I look at when I'm trying to help someone who's sick or tired, or if I'm trying to improve the health of an athlete, improve their performance. The process is still the same. We have to restore health to the gut, restore health to the blood, and then we can start building healthy muscles. For those who are into bodybuilding and want to build healthier muscles or stronger muscles, healthier bones or stronger bones, the key is the blood, because all body cells, muscle, bone, liver, heart, connective tissue, is all made from blood. Skin is made from blood.
I want to ask you about that. How do you build muscle if you are on a low-protein diet?
Well, I'm on a low-protein diet, and a lot of my professional athletes and amateur athletes are also on low protein as well, because just like the strongest animals in the world, they're focused, like the silverback gorilla, the elephant, the rhinoceros. These animals don't eat other animals. They derive their proteins, or they build their blood with their heads to the grass. So grasses and leaves. Even the bear. Well, the bear has kind of a a plant-based diet with a little fish, but that's more seasonal than anything else. But these animals, as well as some of the best athletes that I've worked with, they are increasing in strength and vitality and fitness, and not only are they building muscle and strength, they're building endurance too as well. And on top of that, like when I work with gymnastics teams, their recovery time is shorter. You know, you have that intense event where you're putting out everything. There's a tremendous amount of what kind of acid? Lactic acid is built up, if not eliminated, goes out into the connective tissue and the fatty tissues. Those acids can break down and deteriorate muscle and connective tissue. So when you're on an alkaline diet, when you're drinking alkaline water, when you're focused on a low acid diet, and things are circulating, both blood and lymph, this lactic acid breakdown becomes minimal. And that's why I like this diet for fitness. That's why I like it for amateur and professional sport. So how do you build muscle? You build muscle out of blood. And you build blood out of green foods and green drinks and good healthy fats. And we've proved this over and over again. We all know what's happened with Lance Armstrong. We all know that he, in his own way, confessed that he was blood doping. Well, what a silly thing. He didn't need to do this. He didn't need to take drugs, he didn't need to take IVs of his own blood to build up his hematocrit, which is blood volume, because you can do that simply by drinking the blood of green plants. And we've proved this over and over again. Not only on myself, but other athletes and others, particularly patients who are on chemotherapy, who traditionally, chemotherapy destroys the blood, and their blood counts, their hematocrit, their hemoglobin, their red blood cell counts go down. So how do you keep them up? You keep the blood counts up by maintaining health in the core and eating foods that will specifically build good healthy blood. And the specific molecule that builds hemoglobin is chlorophyll. That green stuff, right? And the more chlorophyll you eat, the more blood you build. And when you juice it and drink it in a concentrated form, this is when you see blood counts go up. Legally, the IOC has no problem with this. Anyone can do it. It's legalized blood doping to increase hemoglobin up to about 17 or 18. Normal for a male would be around 15. Okay, we're talking about super males or super females. We can get theirs up. I was just testing an athlete the other day female, 17 on hemoglobin. Hematocrit was 52%. Very rare to see that type of level of blood quality and quantity. And it can only happen if you're focused on green plants, concentrated, juiced, and pureed. This is how you build blood. And what happens is when you start building blood, then you carry more oxygen. And when you carry more oxygen, then you minimize acid buildup. And which I mean, we did this on an NFL football team, where we put the defense on an alkaline fluid, water, okay? And we had them drink nothing but alkaline water at a 9.5 pH at a negative, I think it was around 350 millivolts. This is we're measuring the electrical potential of the water. Now, normally, a defense on an NFL football team will flatline maybe in 30 to 45 minutes, and then they put the second team in and the third team while the offense is working out. But in this experiment, the defense never flatlined. Those that were drinking the alkaline water increased their ability, okay, to extend their level of play beyond what they would normally do if they were drinking just ordinary water or some other sport drink. Because the key in managing your health is managing the fluids of the body. And that's particularly important with athletes, is managing the fluids of the body. Particularly for, let's say, you know, a speed runner or a speed swimmer, when they were looking at milliseconds, the difference in that is, you know, that's body's ability, you know, to circulate oxygen, life force energy in the form of electrons, and to eliminate and minimize the toxicity or the buildup of lactic acid or any other citric acid that's produced through metabolism, metabolic acids. I mean, that's why...
So,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's why you see Michael Jordan performing one night like a superstar, and then the next night you go, what happened? You know?
It's very interesting.
Yeah, how come one night they can put in 40 to 50 points or 30 points, and the next night, you know, a rest time becomes very, very critical. So what happens when you're on a alkaline diet, you're reducing the acid loads on the tissue, which means this. Number one, you don't have to sleep as much. So rather than sleeping what most people do, 8 to 10 hours, okay, or 8 hours, on the average you're doing 4 to 6, because you don't have as much damage repair to do from that day before. So you repair a lot quicker because you have less metabolic and dietary acid damage.
That's
so that's one of the
'cause,
benefits. The other benefits is you don't flatline. You have more sustainable energy. I believe for an athlete, I believe for any human being, they're looking for sustainable energy. And they think they're going to get in that little red bottle. But that doesn't work. I mean, that's called a
stimulus. For 5 hours, right?
Well, I don't know how many hours. I mean, maybe for 5 hours you just poisoned yourself and the body's trying to get rid of this stuff. Okay? And that's what you're feeling, is the energy of the fact that I just got bit by a snake bite. Man, if you get bit by a snake, a rattlesnake, your energies are off the roof for about 5 hours.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you were saying, Dr. Young, was there's actually an NBA player, Amari Stoudemire on the New York Knicks, and he's had major.
Absolutely.
Yeah, have you heard about him switching to going more plant life diet, I guess lifestyle in this year?
Well, I've known him for several years. He's on the alkaline diet.
I didn't know that. I saw the news article. I had no idea that he was working with you.
Well, yeah, he's drinking greens, and he's on a plant-based vegan alkaline diet. And greens are a very, very important part. Even when we had Shaquille O'Neal, he was drinking the greens. He hated it. He's a meat eater. But that year he weighed 340 pounds. And his contract called for being less than 340. It called for being under 300. He had to lose over 40 pounds. But it was the year that he could run up and down the court, and it's the same year in Miami that he won the World Championship. I mean, it's the best he ever looked, from my perspective. But I believe it's because he was on a plant-based vegan diet. He had to lose the weight. The fastest and the best way to lose weight and to build strength and vitality and fitness is with a plant-based green diet with liberal amounts of good fats. And we get our fats from a lot of different sources. I like hemp oil. I like borage oil. I like flax oil. I like avocado oil. I like coconut oil. I like olive oil. And we use this every day. Generally, based on 154 pounds, I would say 70 kilos, you should be drinking at least, 2 to 3 ounces a day of oil. Oil is critical in building the lipid membranes of stem cells. You can't build healthy stem cells, the lipid membranes, without them. And that then equates into healthy membranes of erythrocytes too as well, or red blood cells. So fat becomes a very, very stabilizing, very important builder of stem cells. In addition, because of their polyunsaturation, when your body is producing acid or hydrogen ions, polyunsaturated oils will uptake the hydrogen or the acid into its carbon chain. So this makes even polyunsaturated fats even more, or monounsaturated fats even more significant, because of the fact not only are they building membranes of cells, lubricating the body, but they're also neutralizing or buffering metabolic and dietary acids.
Now let me talk to you about this. A lot of our viewers that we have are on the paleo primal diet, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with that, but basically what it is you kind of put yourself, your mindset as if you were a caveman. What would you be eating? You wouldn't be eating processed foods, fruits, vegetables, and meats. So I know a lot of them, they love the saturated fats from animal meat, animal proteins, and coconut oils. Can you maybe talk to that a little bit and say why, what's different about your diet and why it would be better maybe?
I really think that the primal diet is basically a good diet, okay? Because you're eating a lot of foods that are natural, that are in their natural state. And I don't know if this is the case or not, preferably uncooked, because anytime you cook food, you destroy its electrical energy force. And that's really something that I like to bring home to people, and that is that our bodies do not run on calories. Our bodies run on electricity. We are electrical beings. If you don't believe me, put your finger in a light socket. You'll find out how electrical you are. So the conductivity of all of this electrical energy is transported by sodium ions. That's why we are a body of water, or salt water with a little dirt in it, kind of a bag of water with a little dirt. But all of our fluids are sodium. So when we're thinking about, okay, how do we best serve our bodies to provide it the best energy it needs? Do we get it from secondary sources, from animals? That's not a primary source. If you look at the animals that we're eating, these animals are eating what?
Plants.
They're eating plants, okay? They're not eating other animals. But even those animals, you're saying, okay, yeah, but Dr. Young, what about those animals in the wild that are eating each other? Like the lion, the tiger, right? Well, it's interesting. Those animals could not survive if they did not first eat the pre-digested liquefied grasses of the stomach of those animals. I mean, they feast or kind of snack on the bones or the flesh, but the real food is in the gut that they feast on. When you understand the microbiology, once you understand the importance of blood, once you understand the nature of what food should be in order for it to build not just ordinary or subordinary stem cells, but extraordinary blood cells, or stem cells, you realize that there's 2 or 3 very important points. Number one, blood or stem cells is made out of liquid food. 2, that liquid food ideally should be at a pH of 8.4. And 3, any solid food that's there is only going to cause constipation and congestion, and that's why I recommend a low-fiber diet, which I know people are going, oh my heavens, here we go. More controversy. A low-fiber, because fiber provides no benefit whatsoever for building blood. In fact, it's the stuff the body, you take in and it gets rid of. You say, well, it's like a scrub brush. We don't need scrub brushes. We just need to chew our food better. So once we understand then that digestion can only take place through mastication, chewing our food, that when that food is swallowed, it has to be liquefied and beginning to be in an alkaline state. Even the salivary glands secrete sodium bicarbonate. The stomach secretes sodium bicarbonate. The gallbladder and the pancreas, or the pancreas specifically, secretes sodium bicarbonate. Even the intestines prepare the food to an alkaline state, where that is the basis by which stem cells are made in the crypts of the small intestine.
So could I make a point real quick, Robert, on what you're just saying there? The sodium bicarbonate, just in case if they're not familiar with that, from my understanding, and Cameron's seen me do this, my body reacts really quickly. When I eat like a bread or any sandwich at all, what ends up happening is I get phlegm and stuff in my throat, and I almost start coughing up. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, what I'm talking about, as soon as you put an acid in the mouth, the salivary glands have to begin secreting an alkaline base in order to neutralize that acid. I mean, because that's how it's designed. Our bodies are designed in an alkaline state, but all of our functions are acidic. So breathing, thinking, eating all produce acids that could eventually kill us. So our body is going to buffer that. That mucus, that sticky stuff, that phlegm, is chelated acid from the bread. I mean, we're talking about a starchy, non-nutrient food that provides no electrical energy because it's been baked to death. And when you bake something or cook something, you destroy the electrical potential or life force energy which is found in the electron. So there's no value in eating, a processed food, because all these processed foods have lost their electrical potential. Just as there's no value of trying to plug your cell phone in to a socket that doesn't provide energy, or it's been turned off. If you've gone to an airport, you probably found that out. Some of the sockets work, some of the sockets don't work. So if you're going to recharge a cell phone, you're going to recharge it with electrons. When you go out and you buy energy in the form of a battery, you buy alkaline batteries. So the body, when we know this, these were 2 foundational hypotheses that I've been testing now for over 30 years, is that the first hypothesis is the human body is alkaline in its design. Every aspect within it should be at a pH of at least 7.2 or greater. The second point of my hypothesis is that all functions, from breathing to eating, for example, when you're breathing in oxygen, you're exhaling an acid called carbon dioxide. When your body's using electrical energy, it's producing acids, carbonic acids, it's producing uric acids, it's producing lactic acids. These acids, if they're not eliminated through the 4 channels of elimination, that's urination, perspiration, defecation, and respiration. Did I name them all 4? Yes. Those 4 elimination organs, if we don't get rid of the carbon dioxide, then we literally suffocate from intoxication, from acidosis. So the body has a very low tolerance for acid, and particularly the blood. Its range for tolerance is like 7.3 to 7.4. And it will do everything it can to protect it. The body will pull from calcium from the bones, magnesium from the muscles. That's why we see cancer patients whittling away, because they don't have enough alkalinity to deal with an acidic cancerous condition. And when a patient is receiving chemotherapy, that's more acid on top of more acid. They start losing their body mass. to neutralize the acids. Calcium ions, magnesium is being utilized to do that. So these are the things that are important when we're considering what foods we eat. When we eat animal protein, the question is this food that we're eating providing electrical life force energy? The answer is very little. So why eat it? The second question is, if I'm eating animal protein, will this animal protein liquefy? The answer is absolutely not. You might as well be eating a table, a chair, or a piece of carpet, than eating a piece of meat. That stuff goes in the same way, and it comes out the same way. There's no way to digest animal protein other than you feel full. This is what people say, you're full of, undigested food. I mean, when they did an autopsy on John Wayne, he had like 60 to 70 pounds of undigested animal protein in his gut. And most people are carrying around anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 meals in their gut, and most of that is undigested or non-soluble fibers that do not liquefy, that just build up and build up over time. And so I'm not a real big fan on eating large portions of animal proteins. But I can say this, that if you don't want to change your diet to a plant-based diet, then move to fish. And if you don't like fish, then eat small amounts of animal protein, like beef. And hopefully the beef is grass-fed. And if you're going to eat animal protein, when you do your plate, make sure that you have a big salad or lots of broccoli and spinach and celery and cucumbers and avocados. Make your plate that the main meal, and then have a side of a little meat. So meat becomes the side rather than a side salad. Protein becomes the side. And your basis for building blood and strength and fitness comes from electron-rich, alkaline, chlorophyll-rich green foods. And some of my favorite are broccoli, cucumbers, spinach, kale, collard greens, avocado. I can eat 3 or 4 avocados a day. And the thing is avocado doesn't make you fat, it makes you healthy. What makes you fat is the body's inability to remove its own waste products.
What is the cause of that? Why wouldn't your body be able to rid itself of that?
Because when you're eating carpet, it just doesn't come out. When you're eating animal protein, it just doesn't come out. When you're eating food that does not liquefy, it gets stuck. And the acids from that. Okay, what are the acids from animal protein? Here's a good question for everybody to think about. If you end up with a symptom of gout, what is the acid that causes gout? Uric acid. So what does the doctor tell you to get off of? Uric acid is very painful. When you have buildup of uric acid, your body's either breaking down or you're eating too much animal protein, because that's one of the main toxic acids from the mastication or the breakdown of animal protein. 3 more: phosphoric acid, sulfuric acid, and a really terrible one that is directly indicated to cancer is nitric acid. Nitrates, nitric acid. Very, very detrimental to the human organism and destructive to the intestinal root system of the body. So I personally, this is my personal choice. I would never tell anybody what to do unless they asked me. I would make suggestions. My suggestions, if you want to balance the pH, and what does the acronym pH stand for? Perfectly healthy. So if you're looking for perfect health, then you wouldn't eat animal protein. You would be doing what the strongest animals in the world do, the most fit animals, and the most fit and strong athletes do, from power builders that I work with, to wrestlers, to kickboxers, to boxers, to racers, both swimming, running, jumping, whatever athletic events you do, from basketball to football. You can't get sustainable energy from animal protein. It's used food. It's already been consumed. The life force has already been taken from it.
So let me ask you. Oh, sorry. Let me ask you a question. Is the goal to get a cell alkaline? And then let me attach another question to that. and forgive me my ignorance. I'm not as knowledgeable on this as Brock is. But I have heard that an alkaline cell is experiencing inflammation. Can you elaborate on how inflammation plays, or what your thoughts on inflammation and what the end goal is for on the cellular level? Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, my basic theory that I postulated, it's been over 30 years, and it's this: there's only one sickness and one disease, and that's the overacidification of the blood and tissues due to an inverted way of living and eating and thinking. What I just said, very quickly, is that sickness and disease is an expression of lifestyle and dietary choice. It's a consequence of what you choose, how you choose to live. Okay? And it's not just what you eat or what you drink, it's also what you think. You can have thoughts that can cause heart attacks. 80% of the heart attacks, those that go to the emergency room, 80% of those are coming from their head, not from their heart. So I call them thought attacks. So even our thoughts become biology. Our thoughts require energy. When we're using electrical energy, electrons, we are producing waste products. The key then comes, how do we get rid of these waste products? We've only got 4 channels. If we're not exercising, if we don't take time to exercise, we might as well take time to die. Because daily exercise, if we stop it, we begin to die. The body removes a majority of its own waste products out through the pores of the skin. And if you're not exercising and sweating, then you're really not exercising. So you've got like 3,500 openings per square inch on the skin. I mean, you've got one opening in the urinary tract system, you've got one opening for the bowels, and you've got one opening through the lungs. But the pores, this is where acids escape. That's why people have body odor. That's why people try to use deodorants to cover up and mask their acidic urine that's coming out through their pores of the skin, because it's not coming out through the other orifices. So when we talk about inflammation, then inflammation is just a stage of acidity. See, there's only one sickness and one disease. That's acid. So if ever in doubt, what causes cancer? Acid. What causes MS? Acid. What causes diabetes? Acid. Why is it building up? Because the elimination organs aren't eliminating it. Why? Because you're eating the wrong foods, you're not exercising, you're not breathing deeply, you got too much stress in your life, you don't sleep enough, or you sleep too much. These are things that have to be looked at. So what I determined that within this one sickness and one disease are 7 stages of acidosis. The first stage of acidosis that people experience is I'm tired, enervation. I don't have enough energy. That's when you hear those words come out, that person is a state of acidosis. If we can give them a shot of salts, mineral salts, sodium bicarbonate, some electron-rich foods, a fresh glass of green drink with cucumber, spinach, celery, kale, lime, whatever you want to put in there that's green, you drink that, pow, you're ready to rock and roll again. Okay? If you put beef and chicken, or you just lay down on this thing, it's called food drunk. People do it for Christmas, they do it New Year's. The Japanese call it the food drunkenness disease. You can do it with alcohol, you can do it with animal protein, you can overeat acid food and lay down on the couch and sleep for days. We've all experienced that, I ate too much, and so the first stage is enervation. Second stage is irritation. Wow, I got these little, something's coming out of my skin here. I got a pimple here. I got a boil there. I got a hangnail there. I got a little ache in my knee, my elbow. What's going on here? Or I got a sinus problem. These are irritations, sensitivities, allergies. The third stage is catarrh. Not the one you play, but catarrh is what we were talking about, is the buildup of mucus. And mucus is not created until you have acid. And mucus is created by the combination of an acid and a base coming together. That's catarrh. When you start clearing your throat, and spewing out, rubbery things, then you got a problem. You're at stage 3 acidosis. Stage 4 acidosis is inflammation. Now you're building up pain, inflammation and pain. You cannot separate inflammation and pain from acid. Let me give you an example. When you over-exercise And acids of lactic acid are being not eliminated properly. In fact, they're being pushed out into the connective tissue to be eliminated through the pores of the skin. What do you feel when lactic acid builds up in your muscle tissue? Does it hurt? Does it feel good? You go, wow, I love that lactic acid. No, it hurts.
Right.
Right. So every athlete, anyone that's done any exercise, like for example, if you haven't exercised for a while and you go out and you start exercising, you go, wow, I'm sore. Well, what is that? Those are the acids that haven't been properly eliminated, and they get stuck. They get stuck in the connective tissue. And this is the thing most people don't understand. If acid gets stuck in the connective tissue, you start having symptoms like fibromyalgia. If it gets stuck in the breast tissue and the body and it keeps building up, you're going to end up with a tumor mass. So acid breaks down cells, and the body has to prevent this domino effect, so it encapsulates it and forms calcifications, it forms tumor masses, it forms cysts to encapsulate acidic fluids. That's how you get cysts and polyps and tumors, you know, and calcifications. These things are created because the body's inability to remove its own waste products. So inflammation is stage 4. Stage 5 is induration. What is induration? Okay, now the body's throwing out an exorbitant amount of acid. It's kicked in the cholesterol factor, so the body's now shifting to neutralizing acids with low-density lipoproteins, and those lipoproteins or those fats are chelating acids, and it's building up on the walls of the arteries. It's building up the walls in the veins. It's building up on the walls of your lymphatic vessels. It's congesting the lymph nodes. And you go, you know, geez, I don't feel good. You go to the doctor and they do an ultrasound and they say, yeah, well, you 50% block in your femur arteries, or 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60% blocked in your carotid artery. And you go, oh, I didn't know that. Well, these things don't just happen. You have to do it. You have to create it with what you're eating and what you're drinking and how you're handling your mental and emotional state. So that's stage 5. Stage 6 is ulceration. You're in big trouble now, because now you have lacerations of the pancreas, the liver, you know, the stomach, you know, ulcerations of the intestines, you know, maybe internal bleeding, and then finally the whopper, degeneration. This is where all the degenerative conditions are. Those are the 7 stages, and we progressively go through this, and the body's like a car. It goes honk, honk, and if you've got any pain, you say, oh, thank you, body, for waking me up to the fact that I've been eating like, you know, terrible for the last week, for the last month, for the last year, and the body's saying, stop, 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 honk, 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 and you pay attention to the honks, and what are the honks? The lack of energy, the irritation, the inflammation, the catarrh, all of these honkings before you end up with, well, how did I get cancer? Well, geez, you know, this doesn't run in my family. Yeah, but eating poorly does. You know, these are the things that bring about these conditions, and it just doesn't happen overnight. The microcalcifications always precede the tumor masses. You go, well, the doctor says, well, you've got microcalcifications in your kidneys. You may have them in your gallbladder. You have them on your thyroid. You may have them in the breast. You may have them in the prostate. That's the body honking, saying, yoo-hoo, you know, anybody out there, wake up, you know, and what do? You know, do we continue chowing down on our beef, chicken, and pork? Now, here again, you know, I'm concentrating on animal proteins, but dairy products is just as toxic. So there we have cheese and ice cream and milk, and they contain lactose. Lactose breaks down to lactic acid, and you increase your risk for prostate or reproductive cancers. Ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancers, and 20% of all breast cancer are men. And I go to the beach and I see some pretty nice breasts on men, you know. You're going, wow, you know, better take that inside. You know, what's going on there? Well, the body retains fat to buffer acidity, so the body will pack on the pounds to park excess acid that is not properly being eliminated. People aren't overweight, they're over acid. And I try to teach people that their body is working perfectly well. If you have weight that you want to lose, don't lose the weight, lose the acid. There's a complete difference in the way that you approach than the food choices and the fluid choices that you decide to engage yourself in. Did that answer your question on inflammation?
It answered it great. Yeah, no, thank you very much. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I had a question on just that obesity, because that's actually what got me really psyched up about this. Because when I first heard about it, I think I heard it through Tony Robbins, and that kind of led me to you. And so with the obesity, my mom actually was about to spend thousands of dollars to help my little sister out. And she wanted to lose weight. She was depressed. Hopefully she's not embarrassed that I'm saying this, but she was just in a dark, dark spot. And I was like, Mom, don't spend that money. I'm like, just look at this alkaline stuff that Dr. Young talks about. And they tried it out. They did it. And literally within 3 weeks, I just totally forgot about it. They were just doing it. And my mom calls me. She's crying. She's just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm like, I didn't do anything. I'm like, you're the one who did it. And they bought your wife's book, your wife Shelley. They bought her one of her cookbooks. Or not cookbooks, but recipe
food preparation books, yeah. The Back to the House of Health 1 and the Back to the House of Health 2 books.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I just wanted to say thank you, because not only did they both lost 20 pounds in about 3 to 4 weeks. My sister now, when she used to walk in a room and she just didn't have that glow in her. And now, ever since then, this is probably a year and a half, she walks in the room, she lights up the room, and she's smiling, and she's never been. I don't know. So just that, I think that with the obesity thing, I guess the question I have is what causes obesity? I think you're talking a little bit about the acid, but
well, obesity is the body's preservation, protection against metabolic and dietary acids that aren't properly being eliminated through urination, perspiration, defecation, and
respiration.
Yeah. So if the body can't get rid of its own waste products, it either dies with those waste products, or it has to move them out. Since there's a very narrow range of the blood, 7.365 to 7.4, it pushes it out into the connective tissue. That's why we have all the connective tissue disorders. Why do athletes sprain their ankles or tear their ligaments? Because that's where their acid's going. It's predictable. And so what happens, we're older athletes, runners, where do they hurt themselves? The connective tissue, because that's where their acid goes. If they're not hydrating properly with alkaline fluids at the proper pH, which is a minimum of 9.5, with the proper energy value, which is measured in millivolts at negative 250 millivolts, we're creating incredible water with no electricity by creating a vortex, a pressurization, creating life force energy, splitting the molecules of the water apart, and then increasing pH and increasing electrical potential with a non-electric water ionizer called the Watermark. It's our creation, and it's probably the best situation you can do for yourself is change the water that you're drinking to more structured water. But for someone, and I was on CNN talking about this, they said, well, Dr. Young, can you actually drink water and lose weight? Are you suggesting a water diet? Absolutely not. I'm suggesting an energy, life force, alkaline diet from a lot of different food sources. But when you're drinking alkaline water and you're putting more electricity and electrons in your body and buffers, hydroxyl ions, for neutralizing excess acidity, then guess what? The body's not going to push that out into the fat. And if the body's not going to push the acid, which are the metabolic and dietary waste products, out into the fatty tissues, because that's where it goes. That includes sugar, because sugar is an acid. So if you eat sugar, that acid, if it's not eliminated, is going to be pushed out into the fatty tissues. And that's why they say, well, sugar becomes fat. No, sugar is bound up by fat. That acid is taken up. There's over 1,000 different acids that the body's dealing with on any particular diet. We've been naming some of those. But the body retains fat uses fat as protection. So when we see kids sitting in a fast food restaurant and they look obese because they're eating food that is low energy, low chlorophyll, low water content, and doesn't liquefy, the acids from that are going to build up. It's going to compromise the intestinal tract, constipation, and maybe damage to the intestinal villi, so we're going to have blood deficiencies. And then any acid that's not eliminated is going to go out into the connective tissue and the fatty tissue. The body's going to continue to pack on the pounds in relationship directly to how much acid are you ingesting. And so in the 60s, they call it dropping acid. And it didn't work. But the acid dropping is still going on. Obesity, and then diobesity, which is now obesity is being tied to diabetes. And guess what? In just a recent research, university is now showing that diabetes is tied to cancer. But they're all stages of acidosis. You know, so we start out with the body trying to protect itself with fat, to protect itself by pulling calcium from bones and magnesium from muscles to buffer acidity. We end up with muscle problems or muscle weakness. We end up with bone problems, joint problems. And then connective tissues become affected. And this can all be reversed by simply understanding it's not about the fat. It's about the food that we're eating, and is it proper? Is it food that's going to liquefy? Is it food that's going to build blood or stem cells? Is it food that's not going to produce a tremendous amount of dietary acid? And this is what it's about. So when I'm working with an obese person, and I've worked with many, my largest person I've worked with was 750 pounds. We were on the front cover of Woman's World. A woman in a very short period of time losing 165 pounds. You lose in relationship to how fast you can alkalize and how fast you can remove these toxins out. But it's not uncommon to lose 3 pounds a day average. And it's not uncommon. We've had the most weight loss in one day of 18 pounds.
Wow.
Now you would say, well, that's unhealthy. But when you understand that the body's retaining food and it's packing it up over time, when you start removing some of yesterday's meals and the day before and last Christmas, you know, and all of a sudden the corn that you never ate, that you don't eat now, starts coming out, and that was something that was 5 years ago, then you realize, geez, you know, the body really does store a lot of this stuff, and when it starts coming out of your body, and you can actually visualize, see it through a clear tube, you know, because part of the process that we use here at our ranch, at our clinic, is hydrocolon therapy, and we actually see what comes out of people. And I'm very, very interested in that, because it's very revealing of how sick and how toxic people are.
Now, I have a question for you. This is interesting. When Brock was first explaining this to me, he was talking about acid and alkaline and this whole, you know, everything that you've been talking about. And I see him, he grabs a lemon, and as he's saying this, he's squeezing it into some water. And I said, well, Brock, what are you doing? Is a lemon not acidic? And so anyways, he explained that it's not the state pre-metabolism, right? It's how it affects your body once it's metabolized. Is my understanding correct?
Well, let me add to that, okay?
Okay.
Because not necessarily. So let me explain this to you. It's very simple. And you can get this out of a Harvard medical text for understanding acid-base chemistry. I mean, they teach this stuff. And I was surprised when I read, because I already knew this, but I read there in the text, lemons and limes are alkaline. And the reason why they're alkaline is because, number one, they're low acid because of low sugar and low citric acid and high potassium bicarbonate. You see, because when you eat an acid food, salivary glands are going to secrete alkalinity on it. The stomach's going to secrete alkalinity. But when you eat a lemon, you're actually making an alkaline contribution in the form of bicarbonates, which is greater than its sugar or citric acid. You got it?
Roughly, yeah, okay.
So in other words, it's kind of like you're an accountant. You've got credits and debits. Debits is like when you make a withdrawal out of your account, you write a check, that's a subtraction. And credits is when you put money into your account. On the credit side, lemons have a higher amount of sodium bicarbonate, which is a base, or potassium bicarbonate, which is a base, that exceeds its debits, which are citric acid and the sugar in lemons. So when you take the credits and subtract out the debits, you actually have a positive base fruit. That's not true with apples, oranges, pears, or bananas. When you take the debits and the credits, where you take the acid of the banana and its credits, let's say potassium, and then it's high sugar, bananas are about 25% sugar, the sugar and the acids of bananas exceeds its potassium level or its alkaline level, and therefore bananas are acidifying.
Interesting, okay.
That's why we don't recommend eating bananas.
So let me ask you then, what are the top 10 foods that you would recommend never to eat? We should just never ever ingest it, other than carpet and tables.
Carpet and tables? No, that's my sense of humor. So,
right.
You can't. I mean, people say, "Is that guy serious or not?" Yeah. I mean, no, I know we don't eat carpet, but I just want as a metaphor. I mean, you wouldn't eat carpet anymore. I mean, for me, I wouldn't eat carpet any more than I'd eat a table or eat a piece of meat. Because I know if I eat it, it's probably not coming out. And if it comes out, it may do some damage along the way. So I don't even risk it. It's not worth it to me. Biologically, our bodies should last 150 years if we take care of them. So what are the foods that are going to help take care of our blood? Because life and death is in the blood. Your life quality and your life quantity is directly related to the quality of the blood. That comes back to what foods we should eat to build healthy blood, that builds body cells, and what foods we should never eat. Now, there are some foods that are transitional, like a banana I was mentioning, right? Would I eat a banana? Yes, if I was hungry. But if there was another choice, like an avocado, I'd choose an avocado. I'd choose a spinach salad. I wouldn't go the banana route, but if the banana was the only thing there that was left and I needed some fuel, I would eat the banana, because there is electrical potential in all raw foods. But I have enough alkalinity, because I keep my pH of my saliva and urine at a pH greater than 7.2, but when I measure it, it's above 8. And 8 is the measurement for urine for your tissue. So when you're measuring the pH of your fluids of your body, specifically the urine, you're measuring tissue fluid. And so whatever's coming out of the urine is coming from your connective tissues, your muscles. Okay, the saliva is a pH that's measuring your capacity to neutralize the acids of that food. And very rarely will people have pHs of 7.2 unless they're young, they haven't been sick, they've got good elimination, and they exercise daily. But very rarely will they end up with a pH of 7.2 or greater unless they are purposely alkalizing their bodies and keeping the pH up. But that's the key. The life expectancy of the human cell is infinite. The human cell only dies in a moat or an acidic environment. And I wasn't the scientist that discovered this. I just validated it. Alexis Carrel, a French physiologist, discovered and documented and received a Nobel Prize for his work that he could keep the human cell, even a chicken heart that he used, indefinitely. So death is a choice too as well. Unfortunately, gravity is acidifying, so death will come to all of us eventually. But can we postpone it? Not so much how we live, but the quality of our life is important, which will then, make you feel like, gee, I would like to live longer. Because if you don't feel good, you don't feel like living very long. But when your quality of your life is good, your quantity then becomes important to you. So here are the 10 foods you should not partake of, that you should eliminate in all diets, even the paleo diet. I recommend this. Never eat a piece of chicken. Chickens do not have urinary tract systems. They absorb their own urine, but that's what makes them juicy.
Ooh.
You do not want to be eating the acidic fluids of a chicken. This is why they call chickens foul. Any fowl is foul, and is foul because they are acidic. They're acidic in the tissues. So chicken is something you never partake of if you want to stay healthy and fit. The second food you never eat is pork. Pork is also a very acidic meat. That's my second food. The third food that you never eat are eggs. I don't care what kind of egg, you just don't eat eggs. Eggs are not to be ingested. They are to produce the very entity that they were meant to produce. So a chicken egg is to produce a chicken. So whoever came up with the idea of eating eggs, for protein, here again doesn't understand that each egg contains 38,500,000 pathological microorganisms once you break it. Once you physically disturb the egg matter by breaking it, you instantly create microforms, bacterial forms, that are so rampant and so extensive that they pollute the internal environment, activate the immune system for up to 5 hours to clean up the mess that you've created. So that's my third food never to eat. The fourth food never to eat is cheese. Cheese is concentrated acid. It will immediately create a release of sodium bicarbonate and create phlegm or mucus in the body. That includes other dairy products such as ice cream, yogurt, and even cow's milk, which is meant for baby cows, not for human consumption. They contain an acid called lactose, which also can break down to lactic acid, which can cause cancer. The countries that are high in their consumption of dairy products have the highest rates of reproductive cancers and breast cancers. So I do not recommend any dairy products under any circumstances. The next food that I recommend never to eat is corn or corn derivatives. Corn contains an acid called fructose. Fructose is a neurotoxin. It's the fastest way to destroying the brain cells in your gut, because you have more brain cells in your small intestine than you do in your head. That's my gut feeling anyway, pun intended. And you make your decisions from your gut. The gut determines your level of consciousness. This is why Washington is upside down. It's constipated.
Yes.
If we had better bowel movements happening in Washington, we'd have healthier brains in the core, and that would affect the brain in the cranial cavity.
I didn't realize that was the type of movement we needed in Washington, but it makes sense.
This is not a libertarian movement. This is not a Republican or Democratic movement. This is a bowel movement.
Oh, that's good.
So if you're wondering what's happening back in Washington, Washington is constipated. And there needs to be a purging and a cleansing. This is what has to happen for us too as well. So we don't want to eat foods that do not liquefy or digest, like the animal proteins, the chicken. Okay? That's out. Turkey's out. Eggs are out. Pork is out. Dairy is out because it produces acids that are mucus forming. Corn is out because of its high fructose, and corn derivatives, like high fructose corn syrup. It's already been validated that fructose is a neurotoxin. Fructose is responsible for many neurological conditions, like Parkinson's, like Alzheimer's. And this is published, documented research. So corn is out. Peanuts are out. Why? Because they're high fungal. when we eat them, they do not digest. Their particulates activate the immune system. Peanuts are out. Fermented foods like soy sauce or any fermented soy is totally out. Alcohol. Well, we all know what that does. That is a beverage that shouldn't be eaten. On top of the other beverages, all energy drinks, all sports drinks, because they all have a pH less than 3, primarily down in the 2s and 2.5s, and they destroy the alkaline design of the body. Black tea is out. You know, when you're talking about black tea at a pH of 2 to 2.5 versus, like, say, coffee, coffee is like a saint at a pH of 5 to 5.5. But it's not on my top 10 list. I don't drink it because it is an acidic beverage, but it's not on my top 10 list. I just gave you the top 10 foods. Now, the top 10 foods that you can eat freely is broccoli, kale, spinach, cucumber, avocados, grasses, wheatgrass, barley grass, kamut grass, straw grass, dog grass. Anything that grows above the ground, like dandelion leaves, arugula, right? Excellent. Lots of good healthy oils, coconut oil, olive oil, flax oil, hemp oil, olive oil. These are the main foods that make up my daily diet. What do I eat for breakfast? I have a green juice of spinach, parsley, celery, cucumber, kale, and lime. So I have a green shake, a green smoothie. We created these years ago. Over 15 to 20 years ago, we were making green smoothies that contain coconut, grapefruit, avocado, cucumber, and then we would also ice it up a little bit with alkaline ice that we would make from our water ionizer. And I have that on a daily basis. But I keep my diet raw, I keep it green, and I keep it liquid or pureed as much as possible. Do I like to sit down for a good salad? Absolutely. I like it. For the crunch and munch that a lot of us need, I like to bite or chew on something. You have to chew them well, but I like almonds, and this is the nut of preference that I choose. And I like almond milk, too, as well. But these are the things that make up my daily diet. And the thing that's great about this lifestyle is you have sustainable energy. You don't have the ups and downs, the highs and the lows that most people have when they're eating a non-plant-based or an animal protein diet. Your energies come up, you feel energetic, yes, you get tired, but you rest in the evening, you sleep for 46 hours, and you're ready to go again. And this is how this life works. You feel younger. You act younger. You look younger. This is the benefits of living an alkaline lifestyle. And it's all outlined in my books, The pH Miracle. pH Miracle, it's a revised and updated, pub 2010. We've got the pH Miracle for diabetes. We've got the pH Miracle for weight loss. There's the book right there. And yeah, there you've got it. And in there, read chapter 11. It's the pH Miracle Whole Body Cleanse. It's a good chapter to start on because you need to restore the alkaline health of the small bowel. And so cleansing becomes a very, very important thing. And cleansing is very, very easy. And the way that I do it, I say, look, here are the rules. You eat as much as you want, as often as you want. Number 1, it's green. Number 2, it's liquid or pureed. And number 3, it's alkaline. Those are the 3 rules. And if you eat this way for 2 weeks, I don't know if you're familiar with the reprogramming of genetics. It's called epigenetics. Your genes will start changing, and the expression of those genes will start expressing. And it only takes 2 weeks to do this. You try this for 2 weeks, you will find that what I'm telling you is flat out the truth. You are going to feel better. You're going to look better. You're going to think better. You're going to do better. You're going to act better. And within a matter of 12 weeks, people will come up to you, and this is what you're going to hear. I don't know what you've been doing, but you look 10 years younger. I don't know what you've been doing, but wow, your skin is radiant. your eyes sparkle. These are the things you're going to hear.
So, Robert, I want to ask a selfish question because I've been doing this for getting back on this, known about this for years. But if you might know something, but if I haven't been doing it fully until the last few weeks, getting back on, I've got some more of your products to kind of get myself along. And I guess the biggest thing for me is some of those cravings to get over. Once you get like those stomach pains, those hunger pains.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The taste is better now. Like your green powders, after that, I can just pound them just with nothing else in there, just water, just from the watermark that I got too. And so I'm drinking these, but every once in a while I'll still get like a little bit of a stomach pain. What do you recommend for those people who are just trying to get over that hump so they become fully alcoholic?
So let's say you have a sugar craving, or a coffee craving, or a nicotine craving. It is amazing. If you will take the flavor salts when you have that moment of a craving, and you will spray the salt in the mouth, 2 or 3 spritz, not the powder, the spray. It's called flavor salts. There it is right there. That craving, within a matter of 30 to 60 seconds, will disappear. When you have a sugar craving, that's the need for more life force energy, electrons, and the conductivity of that energy, so it flows throughout the body. And that's where sodium ions are so important. Without sodium, you would die, just like without oxygen, you would die. And so sodium becomes a very, very important element that I recommend 12 to 14 grams per day for a 70 kilo or 154 pound person. Should be getting liberal amounts of good alkalized whole salts that have not been processed, like real salt, like the flavor salts, the spray salts. And these are the types of things that will help restore your life force energy and the flow of that life force energy and take you out of the craving.
Interesting. And I actually felt that the other day. So I was talking to someone from your office, and I said, I need this right now. What do I do? And she said, luckily had some sea salts, but and I poured a little bit in my water, and the stomach pains went away. It was pretty incredible. Thank you so much, Robert. I've learned so much tonight. I thought I knew a decent amount, but I know a lot more. And so thank you so much for your time. It's just a wealth of knowledge. And if anybody out there, Robert, where can they find your information if they want to look up more about what you do? Okay, well, let me give you some resources that don't cost any money. You can go to our website, phmiracleliving.com or phmiracle.com, and right there on the front page you can sign up for our free newsletter. So that's available to you. You can also, if you look at the bar at the top, it says articles or blog. You can go to our blog. There's over 1,600 scientific articles. You can knock yourself out and read about the science if you don't have any money to buy a book, right? Our books are on our site too as well, but you can get them at any bookstore, Barnes & Noble bookstore. You can get them online. We also have the audiobook, the PH Miracle audiobook. So if you don't like reading, you like to listen, get the audiobook. That's the PH Miracle. In addition, if you want scientific articles, you can go to our blog at articlesofhealth.blogspot.com. Or we're also on the social media, Dr. Robert O. Young Fan Club, or the PH Miracle Fan Club. You can join us there, and I'm constantly posting things on that website so you can continually be educated on a daily basis. So we're locked in or linked into the social networks. We've got also YouTube. Hey, we've got over 100 videotapes where you can educate yourself and listen to other people's experience on this life-saving, life-changing program. So YouTube, our channel there is PH Miracle Channel on YouTube, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for fielding my questions. Wonderful information, great sense of humor. It was a pleasure having you on. UnleashIndependence.com. We're going to continue to find your articles and post them up there. Keep promoting this.
Thank you.
Thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Loved every minute of it.
All right. Thank you so much, Robert. And remember,
all right. As they say in Italy, ciao.
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 All right, and own your life.
UnleashIndependence.com.